Let's talk about question 2 tutorial. Okay, so it says that main selection criteria for your resin pre-impregnated fabrics. Alright, so it wants you to get the criteria for this type of material. Alright, the resin itself is a matrix. The matrix is being pre-impregnated by fibers. Okay, so in other words, your resin, alright, something like this, alright, is pre-impregnated, so meaning that it's being put inside with certain fibers already. Alright, and this whole thing is a form of a fabric. Okay, it's a form of a fabric. Alright, and lists down its fabric characteristics, discuss the development of the materials. Okay, so it's quite a heavy thing if you don't understand anything, which is what I'm currently am right now. So the term itself, the pre-impregnated, is called the material is called prepreg. Okay, if it sounds more easier for you to understand. Okay, so the lecturer says that the answer, the criteria to consider, is actually in page 102 of your lecture note part 1. Alright, for your pre-impregnated, which is your prepreg. Okay, so these are the terms that you may want to also understand. Alright, and in order to select, alright, the parameters that are typically specified are fiber type, the grade, and whether is it needed to be surface treated, the resin type or your matrix type, okay, and the content, and the cured ply thickness. Alright, you're gonna talk about the thickness, the content inside the matrix. Alright, what are matrix you want? Is it a ceramic? Is it a metal? Or is it a composite? Or your fiber type? Or what type? Is it a ceramic? Is it a fiberglass? Or is it a carbon fiber? Alright, and what type of grade? Alright, is it a high, I believe is these things, alright, ultra high modulus, alright, high modulus, alright, intermediate modulus, high tensile, okay, and things like that. So what type of grades are you looking for? These are the things, alright, properties of your fiber and your resin, okay, type and grade, what I've said, and do we need to actually surface treat it? Alright, surface treatment allows the fiber to be somewhat stronger, I think. Alright, the resin type and content, which we have said. Alright, the other two is quite didn't actually say, but it's the lecturer's one. So he said that the resin need to know that the cure temperature. Alright, what type of temperature will it be cure? Higher temperature. If it's higher temperature, then what type of suppliers can supply this type of cure temperature? Alright, because the higher you go, the more expensive the machine it is, and the more hard you can find the manufacturers out there. Alright, you need to have more professional so-called manufacturers, things like that. Alright, and your cured ply thickness. Alright, this is a ply. Alright, and after you cure it, you may have another plies that is all along with it. Alright, so after you cure it, after you heat it, you pressurize it to a certain temperature, they will cure into this shape, alright, this form. So you are looking forwards to what is the thickness, because sometimes after it cured, alright, it may shrink. So you need to know the shrinkage and the thickness to a certain extent, okay. And the shelf life, because your resins need to store it, right? Your prepreg is a shelf life style system, because you pre-impregnated it with certain fibers with it, okay, and then you store it. So when you want to use it, then you take it out. Alright, so therefore it is a pretty good thing. And this is also it may be good, it may be bad. So in this case, the disadvantage becomes bad. Alright, it has a limited shelf life and has to be stored at a very low temperatures in the freezer. So you need a freezer also, things like that. And other things you may want to know is their hand layup, vacuum bag, things like that. Alright, maybe, but it's not related to the question, but something for you to take note. Alright, so the main selection criteria for your prepreg are all these things. Alright, so whenever they ask you to select certain stuff, take note that straight away you know that you need the properties of a fiber and your resin. These are the standard things. Alright, and the resin type, the fiber type, alright, the grade of the fiber, Alright, these three things are quite common, alright, even for other materials. Okay, next up is a list down its fabric characteristics. Alright, so you're gonna go back to this lecture note part 1, or in this case you're gonna go to the characteristics, and therefore you're gonna come to this page 81. Okay, and fiber and fabric forms, where the characteristics are all this. Okay, but it's mainly talking about the fibers. Drapability, compressibility, these are all the things that you want to take note. Alright, if you forget what is drapability is meaning that for example, if your fiber is quite stiff, because you want to weave, alright, these are all the weaving. Alright, you're gonna weave it. So in order to weave, you have to drape it up like below some other material. Alright, you may want to go above it. So you may want to somewhat bend it a little. Alright, so this bending is somewhat like a draping. Okay, so how stiff the material the fiber it is, alright, will tells you how drapable it is. So the better the drapability of your fiber, alright, to a certain extent is easier to weave. Alright, but it may compensate with a certain stiffness. Alright, because it is easier and it is flexible to drape. Alright, I may be wrong, because to a certain extent I feel that drapability is that meaning. Or if I'm not wrong, the wettability by the resin is whether how well it can stick to the fiber. Alright, so your fiber and you stick onto the resin. Okay, so how well can it stick, this interface over here. So I believe is this thing that is talking about the wettability. Alright, so these are the characteristics for your fibers. Okay, and that, yeah lor. And then if you were to come back to the question, last part, discuss briefly the development of these materials. Alright, so what can you use for the material, which I don't know whether the answer is it for this answer. Alright, but I copied, I don't know whether because what I copied I didn't write down it is for what. Alright, what I copied is this. So the answers given, alright, or the answers that I've copied, I don't know whether is it for this part, is that the development is curing temperature for prepreg is generally lower instead of high temperature. Alright, so currently the development is to try to lower the curing temperature. Okay, so that you can actually lower the manufacturing costs. Alright, because you need a high temperature, you're gonna have a lot of, you're gonna have expensive machines to actually bring things to a higher temperature. So if you were to lower it, things will be easier to do, alright, and things like that. So the curing temperature for prepreg lowered will be a certain development of the materials. Okay. Also, you may also want to know what are the types of fabric. Okay, and the type of fabrics are uniform, directional, plain width, twill width, and things like that, which we have discussed quite heavily in the past. Alright, so these are all the fiber and fabric forms. Alright, you have your twill width. So each of these are being rearranged. So your fibers are being rearranged. But I believe that these are all your fabrics and fibers. Alright, these are all your fibers. Alright, these are all your fibers and your fabrics. Alright, and preform different types of polymer. After the fabric are being woven, alright, then you can put together with the resin, a thermoset resin, which is your prepreg. So your prepreg is a material that contains a certain amount of fibers, which the fibers can be all this that we have mentioned. Alright, being weaved, alright, or all of this. Okay, I may be wrong, but at least it gives you a certain exposure to all these things that is coming out. And therefore this ends the question 2. So in the next video we'll talk about question 3 tutorial.